I'll read the translation again. Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated, this Bhagavad Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of the Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. So we're continuing to read from the second, that's where we left off. This knowledge that the energy of the Lord is simultaneously one with and different from the Lord is an answer to the mental speculators' attempt to establish the energy as the absolute. When this knowledge is factually understood, one sees the conceptions of monism and dualism to be imperfect. Development of this transcendental consciousness, grounded in the conception of simultaneously one and different, leads one immediately to the stage of freedom from the threefold miseries. The threefold miseries are: 1, those miseries which arise from the mind and body. 2, those miseries afflicted by other living beings, and those miseries arising from natural catastrophes over which one has no control. Srimad Bhagavatam begins with the surrender of the devotee unto the absolute person. The devotee is fully aware that he is one with the absolute, at the same time in the eternal position of servant to the absolute. In the material conception, one falsely thinks himself the Lord of all he surveys, and therefore he is always troubled by the threefold miseries of life. But as soon as one comes to know his real position as transcendental servant, he at once becomes free from all miseries. As long as the living entity is trying to master material nature, there is no possibility of his becoming servant to the Lord. Service to the Lord is rendered in pure consciousness of one's spiritual identity. By service, one is immediately freed from material encumbrances. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutaya Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Saraswatunde Ve Gauravani Vicharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paskyadyade Zatarane. Conditioned life means that we don't quite understand that we're conditioned. If we understood we were conditioned, then we wouldn't be conditioned anymore. We take material life as more or less normal life, and we wonder what spiritual life would actually be like. But here it says that this is gradually revealed as one gives up that tendency to try to dominate material nature. Now, all these words here are actually quite elevated words because Srimad Bhagavatam picks up where the Bhagavad Gita leaves off. The Bhagavad Gita leaves off with Arjun's surrender to Krishna. Fully, Krishna asks Arjuna, Kachit etat sutam bharata, tvaya kagrena chetasa, kachit agana samoha, pranataste dhananjaya. Have you been listening with perfect attention? That's the first thing. Finally, Krishna asks Arjuna a question. So it's a very important question. Have you been actually listening with perfect attention? So what's so important with listening with perfect attention? Because we can't hear anything unless we listen to it with attention. And why don't we listen with attention? Because we're distracted. And what are we distracted by? this material concept of life and its varieties. Arjuna was distracted because he had to kill his relatives. Why is that distracting? Sometimes people like to kill their relatives, but Arjuna didn't like to kill his relatives. So he had aversion to doing it. Some people may have attachment to doing it, but either attachment or aversion are distracting. In Arjuna's case, this aversion was laudable by most people nowadays. Of course, times are changing. In the future, it may be the other way. In any case, these cloud our mind, these attachments and aversions. And why does it cloud our mind? Because it has nothing to do with Krishna. In the stage of Bhajana Kriya, there are 5 different stages, beginning with Utsahamayi. Utsahamayi means puffed up with enthusiasm. Utsaha actually means enthusiasm, and Mayi means puffed up or false enthusiasm. Normally, when one comes to the Hare Krišna movement, of course, there's going to be enthusiasm. Otherwise, why would one come to the Hare Krišna movement? But one's enthusiasm may be disproportionate to one's actually ability to maintain the enthusiasm. And therefore, one is overwhelmed by feeling that I'm liberated. Or one is actually on the first stages of liberation. And that's realized, that's experienced by Gana Terala. One finds himself sometimes enthusiastic and sometimes depressed. Because as soon as we remember Krishna, there's going to be some enthusiasm. As soon as we forget Krishna, then we get dragged down into the lower modes of material nature, generally speaking. Unless our normal state of consciousness is goodness. But most of us have not been trained up since birth to be purely in goodness. Therefore, our default mode under certain circumstances may be below goodness. But when one sees that, that's good. It's not one should not feel discouraged. Oh, I thought I was a pure devotee when I came to the movement, and now I found out that I have some things to work on. Because then one can start working on it. But then that means we watch the mind, and that's called Viyuddha Vikalpa. War against renunciation. Actually, Viyuddha means war, and Vikalpa means excessive speculation. I just gave a class, I'm not really sure what it is. I just gave a class to the sannyas candidates on this, so I'm not really so sure if I've said this before. In any case, Viyuddha Vikalpa means, maybe I should, did I say this yesterday? Maybe I should go to Vrindavan and renounce everything. What's that? It's hard to say. Well, I said it yesterday, but not here. I should go to Vrindavan and renounce everything and make my life successful. But if I do that, then I'm going to have to pay for the ticket, and it's so difficult to get to Vrindavan nowadays. Prices, airlines, tickets have gone up. So maybe I just stay here, get married, have some children, and be detached from my family, supremely detached, and at least spiritually detached. But if I do that, then I'm probably going to have to go to work and make money. And I don't really want to go to work and make money. I want to become fully conscious of Krishna as soon as possible. So maybe I should get married, and my wife should make the money. And I'll sit in meditation all day long with the kids. So in this way, one is thinking, should I chant today or should I read? Should I go and see the deities? But all this speculation, I'm getting tired. Maybe I should just go to sleep. So Viyuddha Vikalpa is war against sense speculation. And then one realizes, well, why should I speculate so much? It's making me tired. Why don't I just give up the speculation? And then there's Vishaya Sangara. desires Vishaya is sense gratification, Sangara, another war with sense gratification. Today I'm going to renounce everything. I'm going to fast all day because it's Nrsingadev's appearance day. I've detected a few devotees are actually eating something because they're fallen. Unlike me, who am elevated. I'm not proud, I'm just realistic. So I'm so advanced, but I'm a little hungry actually. And there's only 10 hours left and finally we can eat. But anyhow, at least I control my senses like the other devotees, sense gratifiers. And now it's only 5 hours, 53 minutes, and 20 seconds left, and then I can finally eat. But I'm renounced. I'm controlling my senses. Although all day long I'm seeing Glebdamins in some houses, because it's going to be a Kadasi breakfast probably, so for tomorrow. So in that way, the more one tries to renounce the objects of the senses, the more one becomes attached to them. Because finally, when it's time for breaking the fast, one eats twice as much as he did normally. So one realizes, wait a second, I'm renouncing the objects of the senses, I'm trying to control them, but I'm becoming more attached to them. So let me regulate my activities, niyama kshama. So one makes a vow, every day I'm going to chant a certain number of rounds, I'm going to get up a certain time, I'm going to go to sleep at a certain time. And one does that for some time, and then one finds it inability to follow consistently one's vows. And then finally one becomes determined and purified and is able to wake up at more or less the same time, go to sleep at the same time. One doesn't eat too much or eat too little. When it becomes regulated, and then thinks, well, compared to everyone else, I am God. Taranga Rangini. And therefore, everything they have should be offered to me. Because after all, I'm the truth, the way, and the light, and no one goes to Krishna except through me. So this is called Taranga Rangini, enjoying the small waves of devotional accomplishment. So this is all under what's called Anishtita Bhajana Kriya, unsteady devotional service. And then the next stage is Nishta Bhajana Kriya, or Nishtata and Nishta Bhajana Kriya. Anartha Niriti, in other words, Anartha Niriti, purification of one's anarthas, of which chanting the holy name with attention is paramount. There are different types of anarthas due to arising out of previous pious activities, previous impious activities. There's anarthas due to seva aparad, and there's also nama aparad, which is the most significant of all of them. And how do we know if we're committing nama aparad? Because out of all the aparads, the one that is supremely, well, Prabhupada sometimes says that one is the worst, this other one is worse. But from the positive point of view, actually even on our board here, we have a list of offenses, which is not in nectar. It is very different from the nectar devotion. Have you noticed that? It's a different order, and actually different offenses. But the one that's here in the middle there, and which is at the end sometimes we recite, is not to have complete faith in the holy name and to maintain material attachments, even after understanding so many instructions on this matter. And how do we know if we have material attachments? Well, just sit down and chant around. And if you could record, if you had, we had a recorder of our minds, then we could see the playback, or we could see the transcript of our minds. If not, just write down a few things that go through the mind. And these are the potential things we become attached to. I'm hungry. I'm hungry, right? And you think, yeah, I am hungry, that's right. I have a good right to be hungry. They're starving me here on Nrsingadeva's appearance day. This is Hiranyakashipu's plan. Get rid of the devotees. Torture the devotees. Prahlad was tortured, but I'm being tortured worse than Prahlad. So this is our attachment. This is what it, because we have, what is innocent, something as innocent as eating, is actually a very strong desire for lording it over the material nature. Everything begins with eating. That carrot that's on our plate, offering full dandavats to us, just waiting to enter into our fire of sacrifice, become one with us, to merge into us, and empower us, so in the future we'll be empowered to eat more carrots and more cauliflower and samosas even. So eating, if it's done outside of Krishna consciousness, is a very basic principle of controlling material nature. Just try to fast for a few days and see how much you're inclined to control the material nature. Suddenly our material desires greatly diminish, and probably our desires for everything else, like spiritual life, diminish too. So eating, anad bhavati bhutani, eating is the basic principle of material existence. Jagna shishtashna shanto, bhujante sarvakil vichai, bhujante te tugam papam ye pachanyat makarana. The devotees of the Lord, the devotees of the Lord are free from all sin because they offer food offered for sacrifice. But those who eat food for sense enjoyment, they verily eat only sin. So similarly, we're so used to being attached, we're not even conscious of the fact what our attachments are. And generally speaking, they're not revealed to us unless we follow the process. And then when we follow the process, then we feel, and what is a sign of being attached? Prabhupada said in one lecture, he said, if you're feeling morose, that's the sign of lack of Krishna consciousness. Not that I have a good reason to be morose because I'm surrounded by so many bad people. Or as we heard in the lecture yesterday, there's no enemy except for the uncontrolled mind. So we're not surrounded by bad people. We're taking shelter of our bad minds, the bad part of our mind at least. So if we're feeling morose, anger, lust, greed, envy, depression, these are all feeling morose to different degrees, less than enthusiastic. And when we're feeling like that, who do we take it out on? We take it out on everyone we come in contact with. We think, well, this is me, you got to accept me. I'm actually a nice person. Just so happens I feel a little morose, I feel frustrated, I feel angry, I feel lusty or greedy or whatever. But you have to accept me as I am. That's modern philosophy. But actually, we're improperly, according to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at least, in terms of our transcendental eternal position, we're acting in an illusory state of consciousness. And what is the result of acting in an illusory state of consciousness? Is it we become enlightened by acting in illusion? Sattva narupa sarvasha shraddha bhavati bharata sharo mayo yo purusho yo yatschara eva saha. According to the three modes of material nature, one acquires a certain type of consciousness. And according to that consciousness one will act and acquire another state of consciousness. So according to, or as Prabhupada said, activities performed in knowledge strengthen one's advancement in real knowledge. And activities performed in the three modes of material nature strengthen one's advancement in the three modes of material nature. So if we don't act in the consciousness of Krishna, then we'll have to act in the three modes of nature. And the result is we'll be finding ourselves in another state of material consciousness and impelled to act in another state of material consciousness. Therefore, one has to hear the philosophy. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us a roadmap. Srila Rupa Goswami has given us so many roadmaps of what the different states of consciousness are. Srinada Pisani Chaina Triva Sahishnana Amadina Madanena Kirtini Yaksadahari. Now, these things are very profound. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu only, at least in one lecture, Prabhupada said he only left us the Shikshastika, these 8 verses. Of course, he's left us much more than that. Swarup Damodar and Srila Raghunath Das Goswami has left us their notes on what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said and who he said it to. Similarly, Jagannatha Pandit has quoted Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his book. But generally speaking, this is what he directly left us. First of all, humility. Trinada, one should be lower feel oneself, be low in the grass in the street. Well, who can do that? How many of us fall on the ground when we're in the street and say, please step on me, because I'm even lower than the grass here? No, we just can't do that. And what to speak of tolerance? And what to speak of offering all respects to others and not expecting any respect for oneself. So this is the guideline for spiritual advancement. Just by hearing Shikshastika, we won't make very much advancement. Therefore, we have to chant Hare Krishna without offense. Because the whole background is, why am I chanting, but I'm not actually getting love of God? I'm not getting a taste. So one has to check one's consciousness. Who do I think I am? Do I think I'm this body? Do I think I'm this mind? Who am I identifying with? And if I identify myself as the eternal servant to the servant of Krishna, do I actually believe it in a practical way? Is everyone I look at, I'm wondering, what can I do for you? Or everyone I'm looking at, what can you do for me? Am I actually tolerant? When I'm in a bad mood, do I tolerate it? We think, well, how can I tolerate a bad mood? I'm in a bad mood. That's what I'm experiencing. What is there to tolerate? Well, that's our philosophy. That aprakasham cha pravritim cha moham eva cha pandava edveshti sampravritani nivritani kangshiti. That's just the beginning of what Krishna tells Arjuna about how a self-realized person acts. Even when there's illumination, or when there's ignorance, when there's delusion, aprakasham cha pravritim cha moham eva cha pandava. When there's illumination, when there's attachment, when there's illusion, one doesn't become disturbed by these things. Instead, one remains steady, not becoming disturbed, tolerant. We have to tolerate the different, not only the different circumstances we're under, but even the moods we're under. And go on trying to do the best we can to please Krishna. To have a positive mood, even in the midst of material consciousness. To know that these things are working, but we're aloof from them. And at the same time, then go on with our activities of pure devotional service to Krishna. Despite whatever consciousness we may be under, try to tolerate our consciousness especially, and try to be positive, even in the midst of illumination. Not that now I've gotten some realization, now I know everything. Now Krishna is giving me some realization, and let's see how much I really know, how much I could actually apply it. And when there's attachment, we think, well, I can't live without this attachment. I really need it. It's really necessary. Without that extra cup of ice cream, I can't live. I'll wither away, I'll die right on the spot. Well, let's see if we really need it. If we say, well, I don't really need it, does it go away immediately? No, it goes on strong. You rascal. Don't you realize how much your stomach is hurting? Don't you realize how much your mind is hurting? Why are you so... Who are you trying to prove? What are you trying to prove? And then delusion, when delusion is present, how much do we become bewildered by the delusion? This is reality. Don't you realize this is really the way things are? This whole story that my mind's inventing, this is reality. These people deserve to suffer for what they've done to you. Don't you realize what they've done? Or of course these people have done this for you. Of course they should do it. Because you're who you are. If someone asks you, who are you? You can just say, I am what I am. So do we actually believe all the stories our mind comes up with? Probably, most of them. Most of the time. But that's why we hear the scripture. So we can actually take it, maybe my story is wrong. maybe something is wrong. Well, they tell me I'm not this body. Hey, wait a second. Maybe something is wrong, because I really believe I am this body. And although I can preach, I can tell others, hey, you're not that body, don't be attached, Peru. And they say, who are you? Who are you to tell me who I am? Don't you realize? So we have to, when the stories flow through our mind, and they're always flowing through our mind, that's our whole existence in the material world, we're living in one big fairy tale. One big myth that our minds have invented. And we have to see it as such, through the eyes of Scripture. Then we can change our mentality. Then we can change our activities. That's why the sadhana sheet is so good. Because it gives us a choice. It's right there on paper. Now, generally speaking, when you're time to go to, for instance, Mangalarti, and the alarm rings, if it rings, if we don't turn it off, if we set it to begin with, then we have a choice. Should I get up and mark my sadhana sheet, or should I go back to sleep and no one will know? They'll know, now that everyone else is marking their sadhana sheet, they'll wonder, where is he? He's not going to get a check mark, I hope. He marks a check mark. Well, you weren't there. Well, in my dream, I went to Mangalarti. I was even the Pujari. I deserve a check mark for that one. No, one has a choice. Should I get up and actually see what I'm actually doing? What is that thing, Ananta, that you can, some things that's measurable, you can improve things that are not that I'm perfect, whether I go to Mangalarti or not, whether I go to Guru Puj or anything. I'm already perfect. After all, it says in the Bhagavad Gita that I'm anadi tvam anadi. No, it says in the scripture that Krishna, Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sada Kavanoi, that I'm a Nitya Siddha. Whatever I do is perfect. Everyone thinks like that. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema. Love for Krishna is already in my heart. It doesn't matter what I do, it's going to come out one day or another. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema. Sada Kavanoi. Shravanadi. Okay, I'm supposed to hear, but hear about what? I'm hearing all the time. Shravanadi, Shudachite, Karya. Somehow or another by hearing, I'll become purified. So we have to see our dreams, our fantasies, our illusions, our myths in a real way, and then identify them. Generally, we see them and we make excuses for them, rather than identify them and think, well, this is not proper consciousness for a devotee. If I really want to become a devotee, I have to change my consciousness. And if we agree with that, then Krishna will help us. He'll give us the intelligence how to do it, how to see things properly. And as soon as we see things properly and accept them, then we become free from them. Prabhupada writes at the end of the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which is a summary of the Gita, contents of the Gita, about King Kurukshekhar. King Kurukshekhar, he was fighting on behalf of the demons for for a long time, and finally, Kartikeya, the head of the general of the demigods, went to King Kurukshetra and asked him, what can I give you as a benediction? So he said, before you give me a benediction, tell me how long I have left to live. So Kartikeya said, you have 1 second to live. You have 1 moment left to live. So what kind of benediction are you going to ask for a moment? Can I get the benedictions I can have 2 moments left? No, he realized this is it. I better do something. So he came to the earth planet and surrendered to Krishna immediately. So Prabhupada says that one can become Krishna conscious in a moment or not after millions of years. It's only a question of understanding and accepting the fact. So one of the things we have to understand is what's illusion and what's reality. And then accept it, that this is illusion. And accept reality. Then one can actually gradually, by doing that, become advanced in Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, even when we fill out the whole sadhana sheet, we have a perfect score every week. But unless we change our consciousness, or what sadhana is meant for, then we may be here in our next lifetime filling out another sadhana sheet. So we have to be careful what our goal is and how to achieve it. So luckily, Lord Nrsimha, by the way, just as a point, our chanting of the Nrsimhadev mantra is a historical point. Prabhupada introduced it not for our own protection alone. He introduced it for the protection of the movement. Because at the beginning of, I guess it was 70, there was some attempt to remove Prabhupada from his position in the movement. And therefore Prabhupada called for some of his leading devotees at that time, senior devotees who were in the movement for 2 years. Some of them were actually in the movement for almost 3 years. Most were just 2 years, I think. The most senior devotees in the society. He called them and established the GBC. And then he introduced this chanting of the Nrsimhadev mantra to protect the movement. He actually asked, on the original piece of paper that he sent, we received in Buffalo. I was the temple president at that time in Buffalo. Then it said that we should chant it 3 times, the Nrsimhadev mantra, Tavakara, but no, we don't have time for that. But I never heard anyone chant it. Usually we don't chant it 3 times, but that's what it said originally. To protect the movement. One of the things we have to protect the movement from is our own consciousness. So that includes the movement. Our consciousness also, in protecting the movement. Yes?
In India, they're chanting this Tavakara 3 times when they are doing this prayer to Nrsimha.
Yeah, sometimes they do. Yeah, they're right. In Mayapur, they do.
That's what I mean. For me also, even in Delhi,
They have time. They have nothing. Things that goes. Anyhow, it's nice. So today is Lord Nrsingadeva's appearance day and the disappearance day of Hiranyakashipu. So we celebrate both. That if Lord Nrsingadeva appears in our heart, then Hiranyakashipu will exit also. He'll disappear. Thank you, Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments? Yes.
You were talking about this, when we have this inconsistency, let's say if we have a schedule and we are following it for 1 week or 2 weeks, and then we just kind of get inconsistent the third week. So how we can manage that?
Do better the fourth week. You said you did well in the first 2 weeks, and the third week it wasn't so good.
I kind of get slack like the third week.
Cheat. I promise I'll make it up next week. No, what to do? Take a look at it and think about why I was doing so well the first 2 weeks and now I've slackened off the third week. What was the reason? What was I thinking? What was I doing? And maybe the fourth week maybe I shouldn't do that again. Maybe I should try to do better, at least better than the third week, on the fourth week, and come back to my original, what would maybe considered a good week. Try and make improvement. Failure is the step to success? Failure is the mother, does that? Who's the father? It could be failure is the mother of success, whatever, that's good. So if we don't do well, then we have to accept. It's not that something happened, some demon entered into my heart the third week. My normal heart is so pure that obviously the first 2 weeks is normal till that demon kind of like entered in, and I'm trying to drive him out, but he's attached to me now. No, it's already there. All of the problems are already there, and when we find them on our piece of paper, then it's an opportunity to get rid of them. During the winter, when you sweep all the dust underneath the rug, and then spring cleaning comes, and you pick up the rug, and the dust comes out, and you think, where did this come from? I thought I got rid of it.
It's like we are identifying the unwanted things. Like the third week, if I were to just analyze, like, why did I'm so slack in the third week, why? So it's like you're actually analyzing all the unwanted things. So that's like anartha nivriti, no?
Yeah, especially if we get rid of them.
Yeah.
We think, well, here's an unwanted thing. Well, that's a really nice unwanted thing. I can't get rid of that one. Another one. Well, it's not so bad. That one. Well, that's terrible. All right, I'll get rid of that one at least. It's not worthy of me. Thank you. Anything else? Yes.
Thank you for inspiring lecture. I just wanted to ask, when somehow or other we manage to identify bad qualities in us, could you give some advice how to, after we recognize them, don't become morose, but really cope with them appropriately and with enthusiasm?
Well, as soon as we identify them, don't identify with them. This is not me. This is Maya. So I'm not going to identify with it anymore. I'm going to identify with something superior. Just like when Haridas Thakur was in prison, and the Qazi was talking to him, it's not that Haridas Thakur was thinking, well, the Kazi is making perfect sense. He said, well, it's just a product of illusion, what he's telling me. Why should I take it seriously? So we see it as a product of illusion, we won't take it seriously. Instead, we should think, well, let me take seriously the positive Krishna consciousness, the positive vision of Krishna, see through the eyes of Scripture, and be done with acting in this way on the basis of this illusory consciousness. Then we're free. Then Krishna will free us. And then our lives will go on more positive, more Krishna conscious. So we should thank Krishna for revealing this to us. Because otherwise, unless Krishna revealed it ourselves to us, we wouldn't recognize that it was illusion. Before we thought it was reality. We may not become depressed on it, or we just became angry at it, or lusty, or whatever else. Now we become depressed, but we shouldn't become depressed. We should become enthusiastic. Krishna is so kind. He's revealing another anartha, and now I have the opportunity to get rid of it, finally, forever. Anything else? Gandhara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Lord Nrsimhadev ki jai, Lord Premanande. I used to say Hiranyakashipu, but anyhow, he's a pure devotee now, so we don't.
You know,